Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello there, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. And you too, Lauren?
I
Everything
am
going
doing
well?
I'm doing good. It's summer, last day of school in my
Yes.
area. So
How's your child doing?
oh good. Oh yeah, sorry about last week. She got a call from school. She had fallen playing basketball, and so we have a hairline fracture in our
Oh,
wrist.
I'm
But
sorry.
the kicker is she's supposed to start junior lifeguards
Really?
like a
That's a great
week.
program. Oh, wow. Well, did you get her ice cream like I suggested?
I got her ice cream and she told me to tell you that you're her favorite. So there's that. I meant to
Good for
tell you
you.
last
Good for
week.
you. Well, welcome everybody. Please go ahead, Lauren.
Welcome, everybody. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's get this slideshow going. Sorry about that. Mike, can you see everything okay?
Yeah, we're good. Go for it.
Awesome. Here we go. So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Lauren Simpson. Good afternoon to those of you who have been with us. Hello. And then to those of you who are brand new, welcome. I'm going to give you a deeper dive into who it is that we are and what it is that we do and what we're going to do today. So again, Lauren Simpson. I'm with the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center. We're a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, and we offer no-cost services to local small businesses. Now, our services are at no cost to you because your tax dollars have already taken care of those fees. Now, as it relates to the Los Angeles Regional SBDC network, we are comprised of several different centers, and you can see those their locations on the map in front of you. You'll see we're in Camarillo, Santa Clarita, all the way out to Pasadena and Laverne, throughout Los Angeles, the South Bay, all the way down into Long Beach. Now, you know our locations, you know who it is that we are. Here's what we offer. We offer no-cost business advising, and so you're able to meet one-on-one with one of our business experts. And we have colleagues, myself and Mike have colleagues that have expertise in a ton of different fields. Marketing, if you're just starting out and you're looking to create a business plan. If you are looking to get your taxes or numbers under control, we've got someone for you. Actually, Mike is also available, so you might get lucky enough to set an appointment with him. And then we also offer virtual trainings, much like the training you've joined today. So those are comprehensive workshops that are going to assist you in creating your business, starting your business, adapting, and growing. So please get in contact with us today. We'd love to work with you. You can reach us by phone, 866-588-7232, or by online, smallbizla.org/new client. Now, if you've reached us and you're outside of our service area, so that means you are outside of the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, or Ventura counties, please go to americassbdc.org/find your SBDC. Mike, really quickly, I am going to go over some quick housekeeping. Please put all questions into the Q&A. Again, questions into the Q&A. Check the chat for any links or items that we'd like to share with you. We also find that the chat is a place for you to drop some commentary or speak to each other as it relates to the content that Mike is sharing. Mike, I think one last thing we wanted to mention was that if you are a current SBDC client, if you wouldn't mind, just let us know in the chat if whether or not you've had if you've met with an advisor. Just wondering. I think
not only that,
me,
we want to know if we have helped you. How have we benefited from you? Because we see the same names sometimes over and over again attending these workshops. So please get in touch with us and let us know how we're helping you grow this business. It's important to us. Lauren, would you please put your email in the chat room and the link to the recordings? Yes, we do have a recording every week. It's a YouTube channel, and a link to how someone may be able to sign up as a client. Can you please put that into the chat room for everybody to see it? So we will be moving forward with this presentation today. Chat is disabled, but yes, I work for an SBDC advisor, so we've disabled chat. Okay, so put in the Q&A then. Past couple of weeks,
Mike, the chat's enabled. It looks like Tanisha said she's worked through PCR.
Okay.
Yes, Tanisha, we are affiliated with PCR. They're one of our physical locations. They're a great center too.
So Sharon St. John, chat is not disabled. Chat is available to you. Okay. So the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about marketing for a brick and mortar retail toy store in Santa Monica. I said this week we'd be covering leasing. However, I realized we didn't completely cover the topic. And I want to show you what inspired the topic in the first place. A few weeks ago, I was in Boston visiting my family. I have a bachelor's degree from Northeastern University. I have a master's degree, an MBA in finance from Bentley University in the Boston area. And I also have a law degree from the University of San Diego. That's how I ended up in California. So I went back to visit family and I visited my nephew. My nephew is 3 years old and he loves trucks. And you can see he created a traffic jam on the floor with all the trucks he got. So that was my inspiration because I knew I had a nephew that enjoyed toys. And that's why I came up with the idea of showing an example of a brick and mortar toy store. And there he is. He created a traffic jam on the living room floor. Then he had to figure out how to unjam the traffic jam. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'll stop that. Now we're going to continue on with our discussion regarding marketing. And in particular, we're going to be talking about digital metrics. And it turns out Lauren is an expert in this area, and I am not. However, I do have some information. Thus, we're going to start with a presentation. This is called Increasing Sales Through Digital Metrics. And I mentioned before about my educational credentials. So I came up with 10 key digital metrics that you should know about, okay? One is obviously web traffic sources and leads, something called new and returning visitors, bounce rate, leads and online conversion, social media reach, and then you have these various metrics concerning the cost. So cost per lead, CPL, cost per acquisition, customer acquisition cost, CAC, customer lifetime value, CLV, and return on ad spend. And we don't expect you to remember all these acronyms. We know that. We want to give you an exposure to these metrics. So let me continue on from here. First, we're going to start with web traffic sources. In order to determine your web traffic sources, you need to be able to access your digital metrics. You can access your digital metrics through various means. And if you have a domain name and it's attached to Google Analytics, that's one way you can track your web traffic sources. How else is, Lauren, are there other ways to track the web traffic sources? You're muted, Lauren.
Sorry, Mike, repeat that question for me one more time.
So I mentioned that you can use Google Analytics to track your web traffic sources. But if you're also signed up with GoDaddy or some other domain provider, you can also track it that way, correct?
Yep. Yes, you can. I would suggest I would lean very hard on the Google Analytics. One thing, it's a free service. And it's super comprehensive. So definitely sign up for the Google Analytics.
You're going to hear background noise because there's a meeting going on in the office right next to Lauren. So hopefully that's not too distracting. So key terms, what is direct traffic? It is visitors that visit your site by directly typing your domain name into their browser. Okay. That's like some people going directly to our site, which is smallbizla.org. They're not going to do a search, they're just typing in smallbizla.org. Then there's visitors that visit your site by clicking on a domain that's hosted on a different site. So we may be listed on the SBA site. We are listed on the SBA site for that matter. So somebody goes to the SBA.gov site and they click on smallbizla.org. That's a referral. Then there's organic search traffic. That's where someone, for example, might go to Google and type in small business Los Angeles, and they would be directed to our site. It'll be popped up. We all do searches. Or if we were to run a banner ad, and Lauren, we should be running banner ads, by the way. Okay, a banner ad is something that goes across the screen, right? It can be a paid banner ad, and somebody clicks on that banner ad, and it comes to our website, right? So those are the key terms that you should be familiar with regards to web traffic sources. Direct traffic, referral traffic, organic search traffic, campaign traffic. Now, organic search traffic is really important because we all know what it's like to search for something through Google or Bing or whatever, or Yahoo. And the easier it is for people to find you, the better off you are. So here's an example.
Mike, if I could,
Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
go back to your last slide.
Sure.
I think it was the mention of, the organic search. So on that topic, that's where SEO, so search engine optimization, comes into play. You'll want to be sure Google site. Oh, Nancy, I was saying Google Analytics. I'll put that into the chat. Google Analytics for tracking. What was I just saying? Oh, so your SEO is going to be key terms. So like Mike was just mentioning, when you are someone's trying to search for a service that you offer or your business specifically, you'll want to make sure your key terms speak to those items so that as soon as somebody populates, best place to have fried chicken, that, Mike's fried chicken house pops up.
Exactly.
So.
Right. Don't just type in fried chicken, type in Mike's fried chicken.
There
and
you
might
go.
Find me.
There you go.
Or
sorry, Mike,
yet,
go ahead.
type in Mike's toy store or baby store in Santa Monica, and you'll find the hypothetical retail brick and mortar store that we've been talking about. So here is some like a graphical representation of web traffic sources, plus actual data associated with web traffic sources taken from Google Analytics. Google Analytics is free. You can, if you don't know how to attach Google Analytics to your site, find someone who does. Call us, contact us, write to Lauren, she'll help you out. Okay, we'll help you figure it out. So you can see in this case, 59% of the traffic to this site came from organic search. That's what Lauren just referred to. Somebody typing in Mike's fried chicken, or better yet, Mike's toy store, and they find my toy store. I think we called it Wonderful Toys, or Amazing Toys. We called it Amazing Toys.
I think so.
Right. Okay. And then there's paid search. Well, in this case, 19% of the traffic came from paid search. So that means I'm paying to post the ads on Google or Facebook. Okay. So 19% of the traffic came from a paid source. And you can see down here, there's Facebook listed 1, 2, 3 times. But then we have organic searches, number 8, through Bing and DuckDuckGo. For those of you who don't know about DuckDuckGo, it is a browser, but it's a browser that basically hides your personal information. And then we have direct search, 12%, with somebody's typing in directly the site name, and 10% coming from social media. Okay, you can see LinkedIn is colored yellow. It's number 4. That's classified as coming from a social source. Okay, you can see the blue is identified as an organic search, and number 2 is paid search, and number 5 is a referral source. Okay, and number 6 is other. It's listed under acquisition there. All right. Anything to add to this, Lauren? We good? Okay. So one of the things you want to look at is new and returning visitors and total visitors to your site. So total visitors just measures the number of visitors, users that have visited your page. So back here, we had 3,470 visitors to the page. Okay. New visitors are those who are new visiting your site. The people who have never been to your site. Okay. When someone goes to your site, the Google's tracking statement looks for a tracking cookie on their device. That's what a cookie is. You've all seen references to cookies. It's a little snippet of code, okay? If the cookie is not present, then Google creates one and considers this a new user. Returning users have previously visited your site. So you want to know who's returning visitors and who's new visitors. And if the cookie is present, then Google considers this a returning user and starts a new session. So here's an example. 3,470 users came to my hypothetical store, my site, and 3,386 were new users. Awesome. that's great. That's mean I am finding more people are finding my site, so to speak, right? So almost 90% were new users and 10% were returning visitors. Depending on what you're doing will determine whether or not it's better to have new or returning visitors. What do you think, Lauren?
Sorry, Mike, can you hear me okay?
Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So when it comes to these two very different analytics, I would say you're going to continue. So I'm not going to, I'm jumping ahead in my head. Sorry. Keep going because I'm about
Okay,
to.
we're talking about new users and returning visitors. So some might say it's better to have more new users than returning visitors. Maybe not. It
I
depends.
think both are important, and I think you're very right. It does depend. I probably lean harder on those returning visitors because now they're vested, or at least they have some sort of investment in my business that's causing them to come back. Again, new visitors, you for sure want to see high numbers, but you want to see this kind of become like a 50-50 type situation so that you know that the content you're putting out there and just feedback on your product is faring well for those who are actually coming back. You want people to come back.
Thank you. And this also is a breakdown by country. So 15% are coming, visitors are coming from the US, 10% from the United Kingdom, and so on down to 3% from the Philippines. So there seems to be a bit of international reach for this site. And if this was the brick and mortar store in Santa Monica, I'd say, awesome. I got people looking at me from Malaysia. Good. What can we send to Malaysia? Right? So this is a key metric you want to look at, not just new and returning users, but where are they coming from? In some cases, we will drill down to the city. So if I'm attracting many more visitors from a particular city outside from where I'm, maybe I'll consider opening a brick and mortar store, a pop-up in that city. Now, bounce rate. Will you please explain bounce rate? I'll leave this one to you.
Well, first off, I love bounce rate.
We're not talking about bouncing balls.
Well, I mean, I think if you read anything on this slide, look at that the second little paragraph or sentence that says, for example, because we just talked about this. We just talked about SEO, right? So search engine optimization. Bounce rate is the rate of which people are bouncing or going from page to page within your website. You want it to be healthy. So you want it to be higher because it'll be a reflection of your content being juicy or important. You want people, go to my homepage, but it'd be great if you went to my about page or went to my location page or went to my, shop page. That's the one you really want to see a healthy bounce. But that's essentially what it is, Mike.
Yeah. So there's a little example down there. If a user lands on your homepage from a search, browses and scrolls around, but fails to click on any internal links or interact in any meaningful way, then leaves. We've all done this, by the way, because it's not what you were looking for. You thought it was what you were looking for, but it's not. So you just bounce out of the site. And it's tracked. You do not want a high bounce rate. You want a low bounce rate.
Mike, if you go back to that page really quick. Yeah, Tanisha, that was a really great question. Look at that bottom portion. There we go. If they leave without taking action, then yes, that's terrible. That's when you know, okay, people are bouncing, but they're bouncing out. They're leaving. So it's important to compare your bounce rate against what the actual CTA or not CTA, but the actual action that they took on your website. It's a science.
Well, it's more than that. Think about this. You have the toy store as an example. Somebody walks in, looks around, says, not for me, and walks out. They bounced. Okay. You don't want that. You don't want that at the site. You don't want that at brick and mortar location. You want people to feel welcome into your site. People to feel welcome into your store. If it's a brick and mortar location, right? You don't want people just bouncing out because that's not a good thing. You want to attract them in so they can buy stuff. Are you tracking the Q&A, Lauren? All right. So here's an example of a bounce rate. This is almost an 80% bounce rate for this particular site. And that's not good. That means a lot of people are not taking some action. Okay. I would say no matter what you're doing, okay, an 80% bounce rate is terrible. Okay. You agree, Lauren? 30, 40%, okay, but 80%, there's something going that's wrong. All right.
Look, that it's super high for the blog, it looks like too.
Yeah, 95%. This just has to do with coffee and superfoods, and it's just not doing well.
But see, to your point earlier, like that's an opportunity to adjust the content, right? So if people aren't responding to that, then maybe we need to do some adjustments.
Yeah, apparently people aren't interested in whatever they were offering here in terms of mushrooms and coffee, and it's just not doing well. That doesn't mean the content's bad. The information might be solid. It's just that the way it's being presented might be bad. So now we're moving on to leads and online conversions. So there's something called a lead to customer conversion rate, also known as a sales conversion rate or a lead conversion rate. It all means the same thing. Okay. So it's the proportion of qualified leads of the company that actually ends up in a sale. So the term qualified lead is important. It's not just any lead. It's a qualified lead that eventually results in a sale. And it's something called a sales funnel. Again, we're talking about some terms that people may not be familiar with, and I'm going to call upon Lauren's expertise to explain some of these. Lauren, do you want to talk about a sales funnel, what that means?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead. Okay. Just talk loud. Go ahead. It's all good.
Okay, guys. Okay, Mike, what was your question?
Why don't you discuss what a sales funnel is?
Nice. Okay, we'll do. So, are you sure you want me to talk about it?
Yes,
or are you talking about
you talk about it. Go ahead.
So, sales funnel is essentially, it's a funnel, right? So it's larger, and then you're funneling down to the very bottom. The very bottom is going to be the actual action that you want them to take. That's my understanding of it. The top of the funnel. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, the top of the funnel is where you're kind of filtering everyone. So they're engaging with the content, or they're seeing what the product is. They're becoming familiar with it. And now as they go down the funnel. Oh, sorry. You got me tracking I'll get right back to you, Nancy. I'll message you in just a sec. As they're filtering down, hopefully the systems that you have in place, are pulling people through that funnel so that at the very bottom, you now have a new customer. That's my summation of it.
Excellent explanation. Thank you very much. So what is a qualified lead? It's a prospective customer who has expressed their interest in your product or service, right? They have to express an interest, right? So an unqualified lead is someone that is not sure of your product or service. They're not certain of what they want to buy. Your product or service is not within their budget. They're not ready to buy within a reasonable time frame. They're looking out of curiosity. They provided contact details, and they haven't provided contact details. They haven't signed any paperwork. That is an unqualified lead. If you think of it this term, there's people who do window shopping. They're just walking by the retail store and they're looking in the window. They're not true. They may or may not be interested, but they're just curious. Okay, we've all done it. We walk down the streets and we're looking in the window. That is not a qualified lead. When they walk into the brick and mortar store and they say, I am looking for a gift for my girlfriend, for my boyfriend, for my wife, for my mother, my daughter, my sister, that's a qualified lead. Okay. So that's the brick and mortar way of looking at it. If they call you and they say, we've been looking for a consultant to help us with marketing. We need somebody like Lauren. Okay. That's a qualified lead so long as it's within the budget. When it comes to digital metrics, first of all, if somebody's bouncing, they're obviously unqualified because they're bouncing out of your site. Okay. If they actually hit a call to action, like send me a flyer or send me something, or they sign up for a discount, that's a qualified lead. So understand the difference between qualified and unqualified leads. Don't spend your time on unqualified leads unless you think there may be some sort of way of making them a qualified lead. Focus your time on the qualified leads. That way you get a higher conversion rate of sales. Do you agree with everything I said, Lauren? Do you want to add to that?
No, I don't have anything to add. I think that was spot on, Mike.
Okay. So conversions. You want to look at your conversion rate. What is your conversion rate? Your conversion rate is how many qualified leads converted to actual sales. And in this case, we can see a graph showing an e-commerce conversions rate. So if we had the toy store and it set up an e-commerce site, we could track the conversion rate for that store. And this is showing about at its peak, about a 6% conversion rate. You can see it on the graph. Is that good? Is that bad? It depends. If the store is solely relying on e-commerce, that's not good at all. But if the store is generally basically getting most of its sales through brick and mortar sales, that's just adding to it. It's only accessory to the brick and mortar sales. It depends upon what you're doing, okay? But you want to keep track of it. On top of which, in digitally, you can keep track of the number of transactions. We have 973 transactions that occurred for this site, okay? And it's tracking whether or not it's organic or paid or social or direct. You can do with brick and mortar, how many transactions went through the store, right? And you can determine the average order value for each transaction. In this case, it's $35.30. And we have e-commerce conversion rate on this chart at 3.15%. Not good, actually. Not good at all, okay? And you can track it by type of search. So for paid search, we got 3.78%. Well, I don't know if that paid search was well worth it, okay? Social media, we have a conversion rate of 4.7. Just consider a digital store, e-commerce site, similar in some ways to a brick and mortar location, and then you'll be able to relate the concepts. Anything to add to this, Lauren?
No, did you pull this from these analytics? Is this Google Analytics?
Yeah, it is.
So you may have already mentioned it, but you guys, this is again a service that you all have access to. Please partake in it. I of course always lean towards the organic search and organic opportunities, but this is a really great graph to see. Yes, Tanisha, I'll shoot you a link so that you can see what I'm speaking of. But this is a really good indicator of what's been working and what hasn't. Can you imagine spending that? What is that? Order value, number 5, other could be some of anything,
so they didn't
right?
classify it.
But we're
They didn't
talking,
classify it.
right? Look at the low percentage, 8. I'm sorry, the
$82. The average order was $82, but the conversion rate was 8%. It was higher than the other conversion rates, actually.
it's higher, but do we have that money to continue throwing that way or
Yeah,
spending that
exactly.
way? That's
Yeah.
the only thing. You have to weigh them out.
Right. Okay. So please understand the reason we go through these metrics is for you to take advantage of the knowledge so that you can do this for yourself. And you need to track it just to see trends. And then you can go look at industry trends to see how other people are doing in your industry. So we're moving away from that metrics to something else, okay? Now we're talking about brand awareness in social media. There's something called reach and something called impressions. If you haven't heard those terms or you've heard them, you don't know what they mean, we'll cover it. So reach is the total number of people who see your content. It's the total number of people who see your content. I was at an 8th grade graduation earlier this morning in the Valley. There were 3,000 people in that audience. So if you think of it that way, the reach for that event was the 3,000 people that were there. Okay. Reach for social media is who you're reaching. Number of unique people who saw your content. 3,000 members were in an audience and they saw content, which was a live graduation, which was also live streamed. So that reach was more than just the 3,000 people that were at the graduation. It was also all the people that were watching it on the live stream. Okay. Now, impressions is the total number of times your content is displayed, no matter if it's clicked or not. So that means someone's going to start looking at it. Okay. Looking at it again and again and again. Okay. I don't know about any of you, but sometimes I have to go back and look at a site multiple times for various reasons. I'm doing research, or I'm reading information, or I'm interested in the product, but I want to know more about it. So I'm going back and looking at it over and over again. Okay. So digital customer engagement is all the ways the customer interacts with your business via technology and how you interact with them. So this interaction through community forums, through chatbots, customer service calls, surveys, clicking a link in an email. There's all sorts of ways you can interact with someone, or they can interact with you. Lauren, anything to add?
No, the only thing I would say is make sure you have a good understanding of all three terms. Make sure. So do your best to ensure that your reach versus impressions versus engagement are healthy. Engagement for me is very important because that means someone actually took action on the content that you put out there. So they've liked it, they've shared it, they've oh my gosh, saved it.
Right. They took
so you
some
want people to
action.
actually take action.
Right. So
And really quickly, in case other people are asking, for Google Analytics, Mike, there's both a free version and a paid version. I think for everyone, starting out and getting out there, definitely go for the free version. Make sure you get versed on what analytics are being provided to you, and then you can opt if whether or not you want to go for the higher version or the paid version. Sorry.
Hello, we can help you. Make an appointment with us, because it's a little bit hard, a little bit challenging. You haven't done it before. We will help you connect your site to Google Analytics, but more importantly, we will help you understand the analytics that are generated, because it's a very, very extensive list of analytics, and you can get lost in it. And you may not understand what you're looking at. We're trying to explain some of it now. So here's an example of social media reach and impressions. 54,709 accounts were reached. I have a Facebook page, which I actually haven't told anyone, I haven't told Lauren yet. I have 22,000 followers for an Italian recipe page on Facebook. Okay. And Facebook will tell me how much reach I have, how much impressions. By the way, I don't do it commercially. At some point, maybe I'll share it with everybody. So this has 53 follows, 54,700 in reach, almost 65,000 impressions, 54,000 coming from hashtags. That's pretty cool. So Lauren, while you're looking at this, will you please explain what all this stuff means?
Sure. So let's start at the top. Sorry, there's something on my screen. So follows, that tells you how many follows or people new people you had to follow you during that time period. If you're looking at reach, well, I'm sorry, you've already explained what each of the terms mean.
No, what's hashtag? What's the hashtag mean?
So for that, hashtag is like your calling code. So hashtag is the number symbol, and then it's attached to, I would say, the name of your business, maybe even the city of your business. Typically, you want to use the product that you sell. You want to use several hashtags. The number that I find to be very useful is 11. So as long as you have 11 hashtags, I see that people are actually finding the content that I'm putting out there. So that's the magic number my expertise is 11. If you're not using 11 hashtags, I don't know that you're not using it to the best of its capability for you. The hashtag is going to be the search code. So people are going to go onto a social media platform, they plug in that hashtag, and then it's going to pull up all the accounts that relate to that, or accounts or content that relate to that hashtag. Toys or toy store, toddler toys, what else?
Baby
New
toys,
toys, organic toys. I mean,
toys, Santa Monica toys, Los
Santa
Angeles
Monica.
toys, geographic references.
Exactly. And
Right.
you might even tag the not tag, sorry, use a hashtag of the maker. So I don't even know a toy maker right now. Is it Mattel?
You know, yeah.
Schwinn, if it's a
Tonka
bike.
trucks,
Tonka,
right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a means of search. And if people are searching, you want to be found. So be sure you are using those hashtags.
It's somebody, it still doesn't, there's a comment in the chat room about the distinction between reach and impressions. Okay. So can you explain the difference between reach and impressions, Lauren? Lauren, did you hear me?
I'm sorry, Mike, one more time.
Could you please explain the difference between reach and impressions?
Oh, yeah. Is this related to the question in the chat?
Yes.
Awesome. I was just going to email her.
Go ahead.
And I still will. I'm not email. I'll still pop it into the chat so that you guys can refer back to it. Essentially, when it comes to reach, right? Reach is going to be, or actually, let's start with impressions. The impressions are going to be the amount or actually, I can put in a cool, let me share this cool graph that I found. Hold on one second.
I'll stop my share.
Because I get this question.
We realize that this is a different language than most of you talk. Okay.
Yeah.
Every profession has its own language. So if you've heard the term, you're saying, what the hell are they talking about? That's what we're trying to get across. So reach, go ahead.
Sorry.
Lauren. You have it.
I'm sorry, Mike. I'm trying to find the one I'm looking for. The best way to remember it is that when it comes to reach, that's the number of users exposed, right? So it's the number of people who, the number of people who are exposed to your content. Now, impressions is going to be the number of people who are, the number of times, a piece was viewed. So your content was viewed, your content was impressed upon someone. If you're scrolling, you know how sometimes you might see the same post, you might log on now and log on, I don't know, in an hour from now, and you'll see the same post. That's now an impression. That first number was the reach. So the original point of contact, the original point in which someone was exposed to the content, reach. The amount of times it's been impressed upon someone, impression. I'm going to find this chart and I'll plug in a link to it.
It's okay. I'll give you an analogy. So again,
go ahead.
I was at a graduation event. 3,000 people attended that event. The initial reach live was the 3,000 people that were there. However, all those folks probably are going to be posting and telling everybody else they know about how they're proud of their kids who graduated from 8th grade. So they will make an impression upon the people that they're posting it to, right? That's the difference between reach and impressions, okay? Digitally, it's the people who first see your content. Impressions is when it's seen more than once. Does that make sense, Lauren?
It does. The person we should ask though is Tanisha. Does that bring some more clarity? Okay, perfect.
All right. So now we're getting into some of the other metrics: cost per lead, cost per acquisition, etc. We don't expect you to remember all of this, but we want you to have a basic understanding of what it means. So let's say you are engaged in something called a pay per click campaign. That means you are paying some amount of money for every time somebody clicks on your ad. All right. That's a pay per click campaign. let's say you've spent $5,000 in a couple of months for a pay-per-click campaign. And the digital metrics have told you that the users, the people who have visited your site because they came to your site based upon your pay-per-click campaign, converted to leads, not necessarily sales, but to leads. The cost per lead would be 10%, 500 users. Well, that's the percentage, 500 users converted to leads. So it's what, $50, right? So that is how you calculate cost per lead. So if somebody fills out a form on your website, downloads an ebook or any content on your website, starts a conversation in your inbox chat or contact page, calls you directly, physical visit, okay, then, as I said, they've converted into a qualified lead. Okay, users converted to leads. That's one thing you want to measure. Anything to add to this, Lauren? No. Okay.
Nope.
So here is a chart by industry, what the average cost per lead is by company type. This was put up by something called marketingcharts.com. This is before the pandemic. Keep that in mind. So things have changed. But you can look at your industry and determine whether or not you fall in line on cost per lead. So the most expensive cost per lead is for IT and services, professional services. Healthcare and medical comes second, then financial services. Actually, education has the lowest average cost per lead. So that's good for those who are involved in education. And there's also a difference in relation to company size. So the larger the company, the more expensive it is to generate leads. It's just a higher rate, a significantly higher rate. Okay, look at the company revenue chart down the bottom. When a company is generating $500 million or more in revenue, which is a very significant amount, obviously, this is like the major players on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, their cost per lead is significantly higher. Why? They're paying a lot more money for marketing. That's why. Okay. So you should compare your own cost per lead, just like every other metric, to industry standards. Now, there's something called customer acquisition cost, CAC. Oftentimes, if you're involved in e-commerce, someone will say to you, well, what's your CAC? And you'll say, huh? What are you talking about? Well, it's a simple metric. Here we have an example where we have a total ad spend of $150,000. And because we spent that money, we got 3,000 new customers. So you take 150,000 divided by 3,000, and it costs $50 to acquire that customer. By the way, it doesn't have to be digital. It could have been ad spend on a print ad. It could have been ad spend on a TV ad or a streaming ad or maybe a podcast where you're promoting your business. Keep in mind, there's social media, there's broadcast media, there's print media, there's socialization. Maybe you went to a trade show, okay? So cost per acquisition is something that you want to track. It's important to know what it costs you to get a customer. And it's CAC, customer acquisition cost. And here are the customer acquisition costs by industry. You will see that the highest cost is in technology. That was also true for cost per lead, you might remember. And the lowest cost is travel, which is fascinating to me. I can't explain why the customer acquisition cost for travel is so low compared to everybody else. I wish I could. I don't know that. I can't explain it. And the customer acquisition cost for retail is lower. But look at technology and telecom and banking and insurance. So these are metrics you can use to measure how you are doing against your particular industry. Then it's customer lifetime value. So we talked about cost per lead. We talked about customer acquisition costs. Now this customer lifetime value. Why is this important? Because you want a customer for life. My wife and I have been with Bank of America for 40 years. Why? Because when we first moved here, we didn't know any other banks, and we knew Bank of America was going to be everywhere, and we didn't know where we were going to end up. So we end up with B of A. And whether or not you hate B of A or like B of A, that's not the point. The point is they've had us for life. Okay, so our customer lifetime value to Bank of America is quite high. Okay, so it's the average dollar amount of a purchase times the number of customer purchases per year times the average length of the customer relationship in years. It's called build loyalty. The more times someone comes back to you, the more value that they have to you. And you can calculate it so long as you track it. Okay. And it's just saying, what's the average amount of the purchase? What's the number of customer purchases per year? What's the average length of the customer relationship? Obviously, if somebody has only been engaging with you for a few months, their customer lifetime value is not going to be all that great. And there are two types of models. There's a predictive model, so you can aggregate data from all your customer information and you do a predictive model. So forecast buying behavior of existing and new customers using something called regression. Now we're getting into statistics, and I don't want to go into that level of detail. Okay. But this model helps better identify most valuable customers, the product service that brings in the most sales, and how you can improve customer retention. That's one model for CLTV. Another model is a historical model where you use past data to predict the value of a customer without considering whether or not the existing customer will continue with the company or not. Now, I realize it's getting a bit geeky. I get that, right? But the point is, you should understand CLTV and why it's important. Active customers are more valuable than those who only engage for short periods of time. We know this, right? I buy Toyotas. I had bought Toyota since I was young, in my 20s, and now in my 60s. So to Toyota, I keep going back and buying Toyota vehicles. I have a significant value to Toyota because of my loyalty to Toyota. Now, should I have that loyalty now? Probably not. There's other vehicles out there that I should be looking at. So here's an example of how to calculate CLTV. We have an average purchase value. We have total revenue divided by number of orders. Let's say this is you or a group of people. $1.2 million divided by 100 gives us an average purchase value of $12,000. Okay. Then we have a frequency rate. So let's say there's 100 purchased annually, right, over the number of customers. So we're looking at a group of 10 customers. So the average purchase frequency rate is 10. So we have two numbers now. We have 12,000 and we have 10. And then we have something called customer value, which is the average purchase value times the average frequency rate. So 12,000 divided by 10 gives us $1,200. And I realize there's a lot of math going on here. But in the end, the total calculation comes out to $18,000. That's the customer lifetime value for these 10 customers. And that's how you calculate it. And again, I realize this may be confusing. If you're not into math, you might be scratching your head saying, what the hell and how do we get these numbers? You track it. That's how you get to the numbers. So that's CLTV. Now we want to return on ad spend. So return on ad spend is a really important measure that you have to look at. What it says is for every dollar that I spend on ad, how much revenue do I get for every dollar? So if my return on ad spend is 2, for every dollar I spend on ad spend, no matter how you spend it on ads and promotions, if it's 2, that means you're getting $2 in revenue. Well, that's actually not a good return on ad spend. ROAS, ROAS, okay? You want to generate a much higher return on ad spend than 2. I've seen ROAS at 8 or 10, and I've seen it at 3 or 4. So what goes into the calculation of what the ad spend is? Well, you might have salaried salespeople, or you might be paying wages for a marketing clerk, or you might contract out to have someone manage your campaigns. And then there's the vendor costs, right? That facilitate the campaign. And then you might have affiliates who get commissions, okay? So what you do is over a period of time, you calculate what's your total spend on ads and promotions and marketing. And then you determine how much revenue then I generate from that. And that'll calculate your return on ad spend. Why is this important? Because the higher the ROAS, the more revenue you can generate for every dollar that you spend on ads and promotions. So here's an example. We have 2021 sales of about $800,000, and the ad spend was about 11%, 10.8%. Okay. And the ad spend, there was ad revenue of $220,000 generated from that $87,000 in ad spend. So the return on ad spend was 2.53, which isn't great, by the way. It depends. It might be good for a contractor bidding on contracts because they don't have to spend a lot of money in ads, they're just bidding out contracts. But for a business, B2C business, that's not very good. Would you agree, Lauren? Yeah. And here you can see it broken down by platform. We have Etsy and Amazon and Google AdWords and Facebook, etc. And you might have a different ROAS depending on how you're spending it, on where you're spending it. So in this case, the ROAS for Etsy was 3.8. So this company should be spending more money on Etsy and far less money on Pinterest because they're not really generating any significant revenue. It's a 1-for-1. And when it comes to Sage, they're losing money. Okay. So you should be breaking out your ad spend by category and determining what your revenue is from your ad spend, and then help you better direct your dollars to appropriate ad and promotion spending. Anything to add to this, Lauren? No? Okay. Now, I've got a bonus for everybody. But before we go into the bonus, you need to understand what I'm talking about. All right. So when it comes to SEO, there are 2 key things you need to be aware of. One is keywords, which Lauren explained earlier. The more keywords that you have that are relevant to your business, the better off you are, because keywords are search terms entered into Google or Bing or Yahoo, okay? And so I've seen national companies, like Fortune 500 companies, they'll have millions of keywords. And I've seen local companies, small little businesses, micro entrepreneurs with 50. That's not good, okay? The more relevant and appropriate keywords that you have, the better off you are. And you want to look at your competition's keywords because you want to steal from them. Because if they're selling the same product you are, and they have far more keywords, then there's no reason you can't use the same keywords, so long as you're not infringing on trademark and our service mark, okay? The other thing you need to look at is something called backlinks. Backlinks are referrals back to your site. And the more backlinks you have, the more likely you are to be seen. And this is a chart of how to generate more effective backlinks. These are link building strategies, guest postings, replicating competitors' backlinks, which I love. That's great. Okay. Having a resources page that links list pages, business directories, BBB, Better Business Bureau, is a business directory. Okay. Broken backlinks, which I find fascinating. Adding a domain name so you have a blog that's separate from your website. You put your own link to your website. That's a domain posted to a website. That's a backlink. You have a Facebook page that links back to your web page, that's a backlink. That's social media. If you're posting on Instagram, you refer back to your site. Or other people, more importantly, post on social media about your business, and they put a link in back to your site. Unlink mentions public releases, PR firms. PR firms are great at this. Your business may be very appropriate, depending on where you're at, to hire a public relations person. And they'll put out notices, and those notices will refer back to your site if you get interviewed somewhere. Okay. Forums. If you're contributing to forums on Reddit or Quora, you can refer back to your website. Mentions are used by opinion leaders and bloggers, etc. So this is an effective way of building backlinks, which then enhances your marketability and your presence in the digital world. Anything to add to this, Lauren? No? Okay, she's busy answering questions. So with that, that ends the presentation. We will stay on to answer your questions. Anything there that we should address to the entire population? Lauren? No.
Sorry, I was waiting for it to die down a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
No, not at all. I think going back to what Mike has said throughout the presentation, you guys please get in contact with us so that we can assist you with this. Jumping into Google Analytics and seeing all the numbers that come back, it's daunting. But we have experts that you can get in contact with, and someone can actually, go through the material or the content so that it's easily understandable to you. I did share really quickly, Mike, the link to our YouTube playlist. Had a couple of people who asked about, viewing and recording to this session as well as past. Please click it. It's our YouTube playlist dedicated to these sessions. So sessions with Mike and GB. This particular webinar will probably be added sometime this week, if not early next. So, and then Monday's a holiday, I just realized. So.
Oh, yes. So the state of California has a new state holiday, Juneteenth, appropriately. So please keep that in mind, that state offices will be closed. I think most schools are out at this point.
Yes.
All right.
So we're hosted by a state entity. So
we're closed. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time. We'll be back next week. And next week, I promise, we'll be going over Lisa's, probably a 3-part series, because there's lots of stuff associated with Lisa's. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye. You guys have a good weekend. Thanks for joining us. Bye, Mike.